Broadcasting from Silicon Valley, California, this is Conversations with Jennylyn.
You're watching Conversations with Jennylyn, and it's always my goal to bring you inspiring, fun people. And today, I have four fabulous people, and you will see that for yourself as we continue with today's interview. My guests are René Mendoza, who is like my right-hand man on my show, his friend CJ, and Tyler Weiss. And today you will find out why the three of them have gathered here with me. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennylyn.
So, René, you're my best buddy ever. I mean, a lot of what I do on my show, I credit to you because you do all the hard parts and have taught me to do those things that I didn't know how to do myself. And so today I wanted to highlight your show. And this is my second segment with René, except tonight, it's not just René, but a few other people who he features on his show. So tell us about Frack The Canon. My friends want to find out what that means because I too don't know what it means.
So Frack is our TV safe word to say the F word.
Okay.
And I stole that from Bobby Chastain and from Battlestar Galactica, because they use it all the time on Battlestar Galactica, which CJ got me into post Brooks Institute. I'm like, that's awesome, I can use it somewhere. So we called it, and then the canon is like, oh, it'd be cool if they did instead of this. Like if the official, like frack the official canon, frack the official story. So instead of saying F the official story, F that, like what if we could frack the canon. But it's our TV safe version of saying F the F word.
Got it. So in case you're wondering what Frack the Canon is, because I didn't introduce this, that's the name of René's show. And so now he has explained what the name means. Why don't we ask CJ to tell us a little bit about the show?
All right. Well, the show is basically, well, I'll kind of describe it as René kind of, I guess, pitched it to me. If anybody is familiar with the skit Wayne's World, that's basically like, you know what René said, hey, like you want to do like basically Wayne's World, but you know we talk about like movies and kind of geek stuff, and I'm like, yeah, of course, sure, why not, like, because oftentimes like Frack the Canon is also like kind of like, I don't know, it kind of embodies me and René's friendship in a nutshell, like, you know what I mean, like what we talk about on Frack the Canon is like the same thing that René would call me up and we would just on a random Friday night or something, just talk about what we talk about on Frack the Canon. That like is basically our phone conversations, you know what I mean? Like, so, or like back, like, we, as we'll say often, we went to film school together, or back in film school, when we would hang out, like, it's just, random stuff like that, talking about movies, just being fans of movies, just being fans of geekdom, just being fans of whatever we're fans of, and, just enjoying talking about it with, like-minded people. And so,
I think it's a very cool show. So Tyler, tell us how you're involved in the show.
Sure. I guest quite often, and just a little kind of fun little tidbit about how things have been going on since March of 2020 in this show. They've cranked up their episode output a lot, and I've been lucky enough to guest a lot. And a little bit of personal testimony. I'm a new dad, and since the lockdown has started, I haven't really seen very many people at all because I've been extra careful because of my little one. So Frack the Canon has allowed me to see a lot of my friends and have somewhat of a social connection through people outside of my household. And it's helped me stay sane in that. And Frack the Canon's been an awesome experience, me guesting on there, because it's allowed me to geek out about stuff I've done, stuff I enjoy, and it kind of gets two birds with one stone for me, and that's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So René, back to you. Tell us I know you love Frasier, and you and I are pretty close friends. So I think I know what you like and what you don't like. Tell us what the whole premise for Frack The Canon is. We know the name, and we know it's the shortening of the F word. Tell us the rest about the whole context of the show.
So the story was like CJ and I'm like, I was thinking about, well, we went to film school, take a shot. So every time we say that in our show is if we mention certain things, we say take a shot at anything. Funny you should mention Frasier. CJ and I also like bonded over Frasier post film school. Take a shot. And it was just like CJ said, it was just nerding us, it's just nerding us out, having our phone conversations recorded because we're not just like that. And then just throwing in some like little like video clips, little pictures to kind of, for people who don't know, people who are not in the know of comic book or geek culture, we're like, this is kind of what we're referencing. I used to like my favorite Power Ranger was Billy because blue's my favorite color, but I liked Jason up until a certain point when he came back in Dino Thunder.
Dino Thunder, power up! Dino Thunder, Black Ranger!
Because he would come, I guess he was the leader from Mighty Morphin up to Turbo. And then I stopped watching it after In Space because that's my favorite. Tommy. And it just started something as something for me to get to learn more of the control room at KMVT, learn the TriCaster, be more of a producer, be more in charge. Something that Shelly, the previous ED at KMVT, kind of like asked me to do, and so did Bobby. Like, you should probably do this so that you can get a little bit more comfortable with the control room, with being a producer, with being in charge. I'm like, okay. And I think I remember the first episode. It was a lot of and now it's kind of, I think it's kind of gone now by this thing. But yeah, it's just us nerding out about stuff. Like I'm working on an episode right now that I just filmed with Tyler for Coming to America. I'm working on doing the Justice League Zack Snyder cut. Yeah, so just kind of like, it's kind of also an excuse for us, like, let's watch this, let's talk about it, let's learn out about it. So it kind of gives us homework, but it's fun homework, you know. I'm kind of to stay involved with pop culture, and like they said, with lockdown, we haven't really been able to see our friends. We haven't really been able to watch a lot of good movies. So it's kind of forcing us to kind of do new stuff too, like watch other stuff. Yeah.
I think this is great, and I hope that the younger people watching this will see how much opportunity we have now, because we don't need to get out of the house and go to a television studio. Like, I know you and Tyler from KMVT, and we've worked together. In fact, I worked on a few of your earlier shows, and you are right. Back then, you could see your nervousness and your uncertainty. But now you're like a seasoned sailor, like we all get after we get accustomed to being behind the camera. CJ, what was it like to go to school? Both you and Renee went to film school in Los Angeles, right?
Near Los Angeles, but it was like Ventura, California.
Okay.
But what was that? That was the question, though. What was it like to go?
Yeah, what was it like I know you two have become really close friends, and you've graduated from film school for some time now. But you and Renee have maintained this close bond, and I know he really thinks a lot of you. So what was that like? And why do you think this friendship has just held together so well?
Well,
wow, deep cuts. I didn't know you were going to see over level.
I mean, yeah, it was. I mean, going to film school was a great experience, actually. Like, you know, I wouldn't trade it. There's like things. It's weird because like when I did work in the industry for a time, and when I was working in the industry, it's like it taught me like, well, I didn't need film school as much as all that. Like if I had to just make connections, but at the same time, I wouldn't trade that because it did teach me a lot of, you know, it did give me that head start, you know what I mean? Like, but I just as easily, if I was well connected, could have learned a lot of the same things because our film school was just kind of like that. There was a lot of, we went to Brooks, and it was a lot of like, it was like sort of an accelerated program. So it was a lot of like teach by doing type of methodology or whatever in their teaching. So it was similar, but you know, I wouldn't trade it for anything. And one of the main things is because does, I looked for work for a while, but it was only the fact that I happened to go to film school with another person who had gotten gotten a little further than I had, and he was able to reach back and kind of pull me forward a little bit. You know what I mean? If I hadn't had gone to film school, I wouldn't have made that connection. And you know what I mean? Like there are things. It's I wouldn't trade it for anything, you know what I mean? And as far as like, meeting up with Renee, of course, there are connections. Going back to that, there are connections that I made that, I couldn't trade for anything, and Renee is of course one of those connections. We're, always looking out for each other. It's nice to have somebody that, you feel like you may have a family outside your family, you know what I mean?
Right.
I want to touch upon that agent too. I want what you said, like what I liked about our film school too, like he said, like it was the good thing about what I liked about our film school was that all of our instructors working in the industry. So they would always touch me like, well, in this movie or stuff like that. So I believe some of our fellow classmates have used the teachers as references to get jobs and stuff like that. And that was a cool thing. Like this is how it worked in the real world. Like this is what it was. Like this is how this thing's done. Like for me, it was either going to go to Brooks or SF State. And SF State told me we're all theory, they're all hands-on at Brooks. So I'm like, I want that one. I want the hands-on, not the theory part. And to end the friendship for CJ, I remember the first time we connected. It was he had a Venom shirt on, I had a Punisher shirt on, and that was kind of the beginning of our friendship. Was like I remember saying, "That's a cool Venom shirt," to which he responded, "That's a cool Punisher shirt," and we kind of just started nerding out like that. And now he knows too much, and he can't stop being my best friend because he knows too much.
We're gonna come back. We're gonna go into Pandora's box. Tyler, did you go to film school? I know you worked at KMBT, but I don't know too much about your background.
Yeah, so this is a funny connection. So also working at KMBT, Mark went to the same school I did. He graduated like the year before I started. I went to Cal State Northridge, and Renee actually has this in common with me. I also turned down SF State to go to Cal State Northridge because same thing with Brooke. It's very hands-on based, and I didn't necessarily go to. I was in like the film building, but I went through their television program.
Got it. So I'm going to throw this question out there, and each of you can answer it, or one of you, whomever. When you went to film school, clearly you had a goal in mind. Since graduating, how close have you come to that goal?
That's a great question. I'm gonna put it in perspective. Like, if writing and directing was my goal, I did it already a couple of times. I did it in film school. I did it post KMBT, where I made my short from the black stuff. Like, I'm doing it now. If I want to be the rarefied air of like Kevin Smith, Steven Spielberg, I'm not there yet. So it's perspective. So I say I'm almost there. I got it. I'm doing it. I just gotta. Personally, for me, it's kind of try to get to the next step and be actually in Hollywood. Is my goal. Like I'm already doing it. Like where CJ and I like writing scripts. CJ and I wrote like 4 scripts together like in like 10, 11 years ago. Yeah. So we're doing it. Like we're there. But are we in the door yet? Not yet. At least for me. So I mean, I'm there, but I'm almost there. I'm like right there. I feel. If that makes any sense.
I interject, and can I say that if anybody will get there, it's you, Renee. You and I collaborate a lot together, and you've got a great attitude. You take all the classes, you learn the stuff, then you come and teach me. So, you make it easy for me. Pardon?
I will say this. I was recently inspired by the Zack Snyder cut to make my own Zack Snyder cut. So I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, well, and I know we'll be doing a show when you've done it. What about you, CJ? Same question.
To be honest, like my answer would be a variation of Renee's, because like because it is what he's saying is true. You know what I mean? What he's saying is true for me as well. I didn't go into TV like he did, but I was more in the LA film industry working on, my name. I do have my name in like movie theater credits, you know what I mean? But no, am I like you said, upper, echelon? Am I at the goal the reason I went to film school? Did I hit that? Not really, but I have directed movies. I have directed movies that have done things too.
Oh, this
But
is great.
but yeah, no, did I reach that height that I wish to? No, but I don't want to sound cliche, but it's always about like keeping that hunger, right? You know what I mean? Always about staying hungry. It's always about like, as long as you don't let your, I don't know, quote unquote failure or lack of current success, you know what I mean, get you down and stop you, you know what I mean, like my favorite hero, Spider-Man. You just keep getting back up, or at least in the MCU version. Oh yeah, and
Spider-Verse.
the Spider-Verse too. But as long as you keep doing that, as long as you keep getting back up, as long as you keep fighting at it. I got this script that I'm really like knocking my head against right now, even. But as long as I keep pushing forward and getting a little bit out, you know what I mean, eventually that script will be done, and maybe it'll be perfect, or maybe it'll do something.
Well, I love the attitude. You can't stop when you hit a block. You have to say, okay, time for strategy. How am I getting around? You never turn back. And
You have to say,
unless,
frack that block.
yes, exactly. And when people tell me no, unless I tell them, I want you to jump from here and touch the clouds, they tell me no, I will accept that. Because logistically it's not possible. But when I know a no can become a yes, I will give it a good hard try. I don't just stop because they tell me no. Tyler, same question.
Yeah. So variation of the answer as well. I got a little taste of Hollywood, LA, because I went to school in LA and stayed in LA for a year before I moved back home to the Bay Area. And it's heavy, it's intense, and it totally burned me out. I worked on a few projects, and I'm grateful to have worked on those projects. I have my name in a couple credits, and that's awesome. But LA is a really rough town. It's hot. There's terrible traffic. There's an attitude that people generally have that takes some personal adjustment. And I'm not going to say add enough, but I am going to say that two things. One, my dream was to become like a post-production anything in the industry. And I was that on certain projects. But so I did reach my dream, but I will just say my dream changed because I realized it wasn't good for my life balance. But on the latter half of that, I'm still able to work on projects with friends and stuff, and I still do stuff and post all the time on personal projects and ones with friends. So I'm super grateful I went to film school and tried it. And I'm super grateful I still have these skills and are able to use them. So I had a dream that changed, and I'm okay with that.
I want to add to Tyler's thing about the burning out part. That is something too that in the industry people don't tell you. People think it's glamorous. It's hardworking. It's tiring. When we did short films, like at the end of the day, like the end of the project, like I'm just done. I'm like, I want to sleep. I don't want to see a movie set for a year. Which I mean, at least at Brooks, like that, we had to turn in projects like every other week, right, CJ, or every week almost. So we were always on set. We were always shooting and editing and stuff like that. So we had to turn it in, like it was due yesterday. So by the end of my time at Brooks, I was burned out. I needed a break. But I think when I come back to a set, like when I went back to KVT, I'm like, I there's something about being on set that I just love. So
I
be
know
prepared
what
for
you're
that.
saying. I feel it. I love it. I miss being on the set. So Renee,
Yes.
you guys have referenced scripts that you've written. People, if you're watching this show, contact these guys and get these scripts. People are always looking for scripts. CJ, what do you do with your scripts when you write them?
Well, honestly, like it's like I feel like I'm like always like taker with them, like you know what I mean, like it's like they're ready to they're like ready to a certain point, but I'm like always working on them too. You know what I mean? Like it's like I feel like you're never finished. Like it's always like um because I feel like when you're writing something, when you're writing a script, or maybe when you're an artist or drawing something, or even when you're a musician and you're composing something, like it's like that thing that you're making is like part of you. You know what I mean? So in a sense, it's like your baby, like it's coming from you. So like you're procreating this thing, right? And so like that thing, like in a sense, like is alive because you always, as you're like putting yourself out there, like you evolve too. You know what I mean, as a person. So as you're working as it takes forever, you have different things to say. You know what I mean? So there's a script that like maybe I wrote maybe like 10 years ago, but I look at it today and it's like, well, this has to be rewritten because like I'm a different person and the story that I want to tell is different now. That CJ was telling this story about this thing, but this CJ can see different now, and like this story would be better if it had this, because this is a more mature story, I guess, even, or this is a story with more experience behind it, or this is a different me that wants to tell a different thing. You know what I mean?
I get it. Completely understand. Tyler, have you written any scripts?
Yeah, outside of school, I've written a couple. I have this one horror film that I've been working on for like 2 years.
Horror film.
Yeah, and one I is like, oh, this is so great, but I'll do this thing where I'll get like a rough draft down, and then I'll put it down and pick it up, and we can look at it, and I'm like, this is terrible, and start over from like scratch. And I've been doing that for this horror script for like 2 years.
Okay.
You gotta
Well,
stop that, man.
Renee,
You
I
just
know
got-
you have already.
Right.
I
do.
know you've already turned one of your scripts into a short film, Renee. What are your plans for the future of Frack the Canon?
Right now, what I started a Spanish version with my cousin in Mexico. So I was like, you know what? Like, when I was the PlayStation, so this kind of goes back to my PlayStation days. I'm like, there's a lot of content in Spanish that no one really pushes. So I'm like, let's like, I see people kind of do it, but no one does it like we do. So I'm like, I have my own show. Let's just make a Spanish version for the Latin America community, the Spanish speaking communities. So I just started that with my cousins. So hopefully we'll just grow, keep growing, keep doing, keep pushing it out. Like right now, like Tyler wanted to do. So at first it was CG and I just pitching ideas, and then it was mostly whatever we said. And then I'm like, it's our show. So whoever has an idea of how we'll do. So Tyler suggested Coming to America, which we did, which I have to edit. And then I think we have some other stuff in the pipeline. Like,
this is awesome, guys. This is really great. And Renee, what kind of reaction do you get from the show, from people watching the show?
A lot of it's positive. Like every now and then I'll get a negative, like whatever. Like it's most of them it's really positive, just kind of a lot of the likes. No subscribers yet. Come on, guys.
That's a lie. I have subscribed.
I know you have. Like we get the views don't match the subscribes. I'm like, okay. But maybe 50 of them are me.
You need to ask, you know what I'm learning? You have to ask people to subscribe. They don't just assume. I've been doing my show, as you know, for going on 10 plus years. And I don't ask people to subscribe. And what I've been noticing, a lot of YouTube followers who have a lot of subscribers actually say, would you please like and subscribe? So I'm not going to be shy about that anymore. I'm going to go, will you please like, you should do the same.
Yeah, I should start it with like and subscribe and then move on to my thing. But I will do it at the end instead of at the beginning with like I should. That's something I'm working on too. It's to like and subscribe.
So your Spanish version that you're producing, does that air in Mexico?
No, it's because it's YouTube. So I gave it to my family to share it in Mexico. And for some reason, that gets a lot of bigger reactions than the English version. I don't know why.
It could be because they're not so familiar with the comic book culture.
But it is though. Like my cousin and I were referencing Nick Fury, Skrull, Secret Invasion, Secret Wars. And I'm like, how do you guys know this? Like, how do you guys have this knowledge about this stuff that I've never seen any comic books in Mexico. I have seen the cartoon, so I think slowly Marvel and DC have been localizing the comic books because the cartoons were always there. Like my grandma knows who Superman and Batman is. She was like, so they know about the heroes. They just I don't. So I think what's happening is that, my opinion is that because people don't have it like a dedicated like it's so scarce they'll eat it up. It's what I think in localized. Like let's talk about this. My opinion.
So I never like to interview people without asking this question. And since we're almost out of time, I'd like to ask each of you, and take your time, because it's okay if we go over a little bit. This is not playing on KMVT. Not yet, anyway. So why don't I start with you, Tyler? What haven't I asked you as someone who has studied film that you think people should know about the industry?
Renee and I have already kind of touched on how not as glamorous it is. I think something that is really important to establish is if you want a normal like 9 to 5, the film industry is not for you. But if you want to live, work, and breathe production, then the film industry is for you. There are positions in film that and TV that are more balanced, especially nowadays. It seems like things are kind of moving in that direction. But like I just, it's important to understand the studio system like works people to the bone. But additional to that, you don't have to be in the studio system to like work in movies. It's so much easier now to start your own production company, and I think people are realizing that. And if you do want to be in the film industry, I do encourage people to go to film school because we kind of touched on it too. Connections are important, but the whole world is changing. So don't be afraid to just work on your own projects. And the best thing to do, even prior to going to film school as a student in like high school, is just to make movies. So if you haven't yet, write a script, get some friends together, get a camera, make some movies.
Thank you, Tyler. And you don't need to buy a camera. Renee is making amazing videos with his Apple phone, and he can tell us the version when it's his turn. CJ, same question.
All right. I would just kind of, I guess, reiterate a little bit of what Tyler just said, but also what Tyler and Renee were saying earlier. In that, yeah, like it's, it's not for the faint of heart or whatever. No, I remember like my first film gig in like a low budget film that got my foot in the door, and like it was like to this day the hardest job I've ever had in my life. I was just a PA, right? It was like literally like the hardest I've ever worked in my life, and I got paid like $25 for that. But I got what I did make from that was connections with like a line producer, and like I worked on her next 6 like movies, you know what I mean? And I did get paid after that, you know what I mean? Like, but I think back to that moment or back to that movie a lot because that actually showed me how much I liked working in production, you know what I mean? Because that's like the hardest I've ever worked in my life. Like so hard that my heels hurt so bad that I couldn't sleep on my back. Like that's how hard I was working. Like I couldn't sleep on my back. I had to sleep on my side because my heels hurt too bad. Like that's how hard I was like working. But that showed me like how much I actually like production, and I'm in love with production. I don't really like the post all that much, like, but I am in love with production, and like, but it takes a certain kind of person, you know what I mean? Like it's nuts, you know what I mean? Like it's like, it's like getting home and deciding like, okay, I only have time for 2 of these, but I need a shower, I need to sleep, and I need to eat something. Which 2 do I do? Because freaking, you know what I mean? Like, so
Wow.
it's like, I mean, it's like that. It's like they were saying, it works you to the bone, but like if that's for you, it can, and that might be for you. It was for me, you know what I mean? Like, but it's like, it's like the circus mentality. It's like a carnival kind of a thing, you know what I mean? Like, it just, you're always working, and when you're not working, you're looking for work, you know what I mean?
Wow. Well, I guess when you work on your first project, you decide if you made a mistake or not. Renee, your turn. Same question.
I can't stop reading how hard it really is. People think it's easy. It's not. I forgot about this. I was helping a friend do a short film, and the time was from 12 to 9. They went over. I stayed till like 9:15 because I can't stay longer. I have to wake up early to have to. I'm helping my church live stream their services. I'm like, if I could stay later, I would have. I don't know how long they stayed, but it was. I'm assuming it's a 12-hour day. So the average day in Hollywood set on any set really, it's a 12-hour day. And if you're starting probably on indies. Like that's the only thing I want to say too is like, don't expect to like from the get-go get a writing job or a directing job out of film school. You have to pay your dues. Like and you gotta treat everyone not correctly. You treat people like you want to be treated. There was someone in film school, I won't say their name, but this person, I think you're talking about CJ. This person bragged about having family in the industry. And they're like, well, why are you here then? Like, why don't you get that? And I don't know if he ever made it in the industry or not. I think he did. I don't know. But I'm pretty sure no one ever referenced him or used him or like asked him for help or asked him to work on their projects. You gotta stay humble. I will say that. You gotta stay humble. They're gonna work your ass off. And like CJ just said too, like he worked on his first shoot for $25 a day or just period.
No, bro, I made $25.
Period.
Period on that.
So I will do it for free so that way I can mess up. And then I'm like, all right, you're not paying me. I'm a volunteer. That's what I would do. And then slowly like build my way up. Because that's how I started at KBT. Was like I would volunteer to be like, okay, now I feel comfortable. I feel comfortable charging people. I'll be like, okay, this is what you owe me.
So
So, yeah, I would.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Go
No,
ahead.
I'm done.
No, you're sure? You
Yeah.
finished? I'm going to throw a thought-provoking question out there, but I really want to hear your guys' views on this question. You know, so many people graduate from colleges every year with a degree in psychology and biology, whatever, film, like you guys did. What do you think is the difference between those who succeed and those who don't? And it's not always just hard work.
Well, how do you define success?
Like came out and was able to go and get in the industry and do exactly the goals, fulfill the goals that they went in with.
It's a mixture of working hard and knowing the right people. And that's something. So again, I'm a huge Power Rangers fan. I went to Power Rangers convention, and one of the writers there told me, dude, I was like, how did you get a job? He was like, luck. I was right time, right place. Like I knew this guy. He read my script. He liked it. He brought me on board for Power Rangers. That script I had on, like he liked my writing, so he brought me to write for Power Rangers. That kept going on until I think he didn't approve the scripts. So 6 years after Power Rangers, he left Power Rangers, but they let produce it, and I think he produced it for Disney Channel. So it's just like knowing it's again. He said like you gotta know the right people. It's a mixture of having talent and knowing the right people.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else want to comment on that?
Yeah, and just being reliable on time. It's such a like the whole knowing people thing is like a two-sided coin. People think when you say know people, it's like nepotism. It's like no, it's like you know someone and you prove to them like you can work your butt off and you're reliable and an asset to a production.
Thank you. Did any one of the four of you, or the three of you, I'm coming to myself, did any one of the three of you ever regret choosing this path, this career path?
The only regret I have is not interning in film school, not going after internships. I stayed a lot on film sets on school, and I didn't go out to the real world to intern. A lot of our classmates interned, and one of them, he directed music videos for like big music stars. One of them is I think he just shot a movie. One of them was a co-producer on Batman versus Superman and Wonder Woman. I'm like, all right, like to me, I'm like, well, that's my mistake for not going out in the real world to do that. But that was my choice. I'm like, if I could change anything, I would have interned more in the real world and made more connection, not just stuck to my bubble of film student sets.
Guys, this was so great.
I
Is
think
there
CJ
any,
has one.
huh?
I think CJ has one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was just gonna like elaborate on kind of what you were saying, like to the point that it's not just yeah, you know what I mean. Like it's not. I don't regret going to film school, but and I wouldn't change going to film school. I would change how I went about it, though. You know what I mean. Like he said, maybe doing more internships, but I would have just did more. I would have did more because we had access to free equipment. You know what I mean? I would have just did more. If I did a second, I would have just shot more just all the time, It's like, give me that camera.
I am so happy that I was able to do this with you guys. So if a young man or woman who's got similar aspirations is watching this segment, what's the final message before we wrap? Each of you.
Watch all the movies you can, everything and anything, and then just use whatever equipment you have to make your short film. Use your phone, use your DSLR, use your little camera, your still camera. Like those are like comic books are storyboards for movies. Just like do that. Tell a story visually, like whatever you can. Practice now. Watch everything you can. Watch every movie you can.
Anyone else with the message? Or you guys?
Yeah, just knowledge is power. You know what I mean? Like he said, like just shoot stuff. Like Tyler was saying earlier, just shoot stuff because the more you find out, because in my experience, most of the stuff when it comes to shooting stuff, it's like how well can you balance like all the stuff that goes wrong? You know what I mean? Like how good of a filmmaker you are. It really comes down to how well can you balance all the freaking crap that goes wrong while you're shooting. You know what I mean? So like just do stuff, just do stuff. Don't overthink it. You know what I mean? Don't let people tell you your ideas are stupid. All ideas are stupid. It's just a movie. You know what I mean? So like freaking just don't overthink it. Just do it. You know what I mean? It's your dream. You're doing it for a reason.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Tyler.
Oh yeah, just last thing then. Exactly what CJ and Renee have been saying is like there's with how technology is nowadays, how accessible. Like Jennylyn, you said it earlier. Like you can do it with your phone. So nowadays it's so easy just to shoot. Like when we were kids, it was just you had to have a camera and had to have tape and couldn't do it without that. But nowadays, everyone has like a camera on their phone. So, but the last thing I'll just say about it is start simple. You're not going to make like Avengers Endgame level productions out of the gate. So start with a couple characters and don't go too crazy out of the gate and stare up from there. It's my last piece of advice.
Well, guys, I've enjoyed this so much and I've learned so much. So if you're someone watching this segment, we are all aware of the glamorous side of production, whether it's television, movies, whatever. And you are hearing from the inside that it's not all glamour, but if you really love it, the hard work wouldn't bother you. Because I've discovered the things that I love to do. It doesn't matter how hard and how long, because I love it, it does not feel like work. Although you do get tired, it does not feel like work. So hopefully, Renee, Tyler, and CJ have inspired you. And if this is something you want to do, you should reach out to them. Renee, do you want to leave the contact information for your show in case someone wants to write you guys with a question?
Sure. They can email me at rmenduran@gmail.com. Yeah, that's the best way to reach me. I'll try to get to you as soon as I can.
And thank you so much for watching my show. And check out Frack the Canon. Renee, tell them where they can find that.
Yes, so the channel is called Frack The Canon and Stuff. It's spelled FRACK the THE Canon CANON. Yep.
So check out their show. It's a lot of fun. If you've read comic books, you're gonna love what they've done with the stories. And I thank you for watching Conversations with Jennylyn. when a conversation is all you need to be inspired, like these three great young men who've clearly chosen a career path. And even though it's difficult, they are following it and doing great things with their education. So I thank you again, and I will see you next time with another fascinating person or group of people. Thank you.